Greetings everyone. Myself, M. Priya, Assistant Professor in the Department of Industrial Biotechnology, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. I am going to handle the course Process Engineering in Biotechnology. Now I am going to deliver a video lecture on the topic a bioreactor and its types. Fermenter. So a fermenter is basically a device in which the substrate of low value is utilized by living cells or enzymes to generate a product of higher value. It is a containment system designed to give right environment for optimal growth and metabolic activity of the organism. So some of the basic functions of fermenter is provide a controlled environment for optimum product yield, and power consumption should be minimum, and a facility for sampling should be provided, and evaporation losses should be as low as possible, and it should have smooth internal surfaces, and joints should be welded wherever possible. So, and it provides adequate mixing and aeration for optimum growth and the production of metabolites. So types, there are many types of bioreactors. Some of the types are stirred tank reactor, bubble column reactor, airlift reactor, trickle bed reactor, packed bed reactor, fluidized bed reactor, photobioreactor, membrane bioreactor. So we'll see some of the types of the bioreactor in detail. Batch stirred tank reactor. So batch reactors are examples of closed reactors. So closed reactors means once feed is added, so after the process gets completed only we'll be able to take the product. So they are referred to as the closed reactors. So that is once seeded or inoculated, it will not receive no further inputs of mass or energy. And it will also permit no outputs of waste material. So only these batch reactors are called as the closed reactors. So a batch stirred tank reactor is the simplest type of reactor. It is composed of a reactor, a mixture such as a stirrer, a turbine wing, or a propeller. So these batch reactors may be stirred or not stirred, but in any case, conditions in the reactor are constantly changing. Nutrients and other materials like oxygen are declining and metabolic waste products would be increasing. So perhaps the simplest example of a batch reactor is a nutrient broth culture tube. So this is the structure of a typical batch reactor. So this is the vessel, and here a motor would be there, and this motor would be connected to the agitator, and this agitator is used for mixing the contents present inside the bioreactor, and probes and all would be present, and to the agitator impeller would be connected for a uniform mixing of contents present inside the bioreactor, and cooling jackets would be present at the sides, the outer sides of the bioreactor to cool the bioreactors, and baffles should be present the inner side of the reactors to break the bubbles. The baffles should be present. So this is a typical batch reactor. So the working principle. So a batch reactor has neither inflow nor outflow of reactants or products while the reaction is being carried out. So this is an unsteady state operation where composition changes with the time. However, at any instant, the composition throughout the reactor is uniform. So some of the advantages and disadvantages of this batch reactors are, so advantages, it is simple in construction and it requires little or no auxiliary equipment, and data can be collected easily if isothermal reactions are carried out and under constant volume condition, and high conversions. And disadvantages, when looking on to the disadvantages, it is mainly preferred for homogeneous reactions only. So high labor cost per batch, and there is a difficulty of large scale production and a long idle time. So charging and discharging times leads to periods of no production also. So long idle time would be there. So no instrumentation. So poor product quality may be achieved. So application. So some of the applications of this batch reactors are, it is used typically for liquid phase reactions that require long reaction times, and it is used only when small amount of product is required, and favored when a process is in developmental stage or to produce expensive products, and it is used to make a variety of products at different times. So then comes the continuous stirred tank reactor. So a stirred tank reactor has a cylindrical or have a curved base. So a curved base assists in the mixing of the reactor contents without accumulating the reactant at the corners. So it is fitted with a sparger and impeller. So a bioreactor is divided in a working volume and a headspace volume. So the working volume is the fraction of the total volume taken up by the medium, microbes, and the gas bubbles. So CSTR. So the remaining volume is called the headspace. So typically, the working volume would be 70 to 80% of the total fermentor volume. So this value will, however, depend on the rate of foam formation during the reactor. So if the medium or the fermentation has a tendency to foam, then a larger headspace and smaller working volume will be used. So this is see a continuous tank reactor. So continuously in here, so continuously the feed would be added to the reactor, and continuously the products will also be taken out of the reactor. So in the batch reactor, it was a closed system where once the feed is given, the product would be taken at the end of the process only. Whereas in the continuous stirred tank reactors, we'll be adding the feed then and there. Feed will be added. So that is called as the continuous stirred tank reactor. And some of the basic features in the reactors are: it has an agitator system, it has an oxygen delivery system, it has a foam control system, a temperature control system, a pH control system, sampling pots, cleaning and sterilization system, sump and dump line for emptying the reactor. So all these are the basic features of a fermenter. So agitation system. So the function of the agitation system is to provide good mixing and thus increase mass transfer rates. So they provide the appropriate shear conditions required for the breaking up of bubbles. So the agitation system consists of the agitator and the baffles. So agitator is needed for the uniform mixing of the contents present inside the bioreactor, whereas the baffles are used to break the liquid. So they will be present at the sides of the reactor to break the baffles, to break the bubbles. So a common method of sterilizing the inlet and the exit air is the filtration. So for small reactors with volumes less than 5 liters, a disc-shaped hydrophobic Teflon membranes, which would be housed in a polypropylene, would be used. And why Teflon is used means it is tough, reusable, and does not readily block. So oxygen delivery system. So the oxygen delivery system, it consists of three systems: a compressor, inlet air sterilization system, and then air sparger. So compressor. So a compressor forces the air into the reactor. So the compressor will need to generate sufficient pressure to force the air through the filter, the sparger holes, and into the liquid. So air compressors are used for large scale bioreactors, which are typically produce air at 250 particular pressure. And the air should be dry and oil free so as to not block the inlet air filter or to contaminate the medium. Air sterilization system. So sterilization of the inlet air is undertaken to prevent contaminating organisms from entering the reactor. So the exit air, on the other hand, is sterilized not only to keep the contaminants from entering, but also to prevent organisms in the reactor from contaminating the air. And sterilization of the air for larger laboratory scale fermenters, that is up to 1,000 liters, for the pleated membrane filters housed in polypropylene cartridges are used. So sterilization of the air by pleating the membrane is possible to create a compact filter with a very large surface area for air filtration. So increasing the filtration area decreases the pressure required to pass a given volume of air through the filter. So large scale membrane filtration is a very expensive process. So heat sterilization will be an alternative option. So steam can be used to sterilize the air. So sparger. So a sparger ring consists of a hollow tube in which small holes have been drilled. So a sparge ring is easier to clean than porous materials and is less likely to block during a fermentation process. So the sparger ring must be located below the agitator and will have approximately the same diameter as the impeller. So thus the bubbles rise directly into the impeller blades, facilitating the bubble breakup. Foam control system. So excessive foam formation can lead to blocked air exit filters and to pressure buildup in the reactor. So since the contents inside the reactor are continuously stirred, foam will be formed. So this excessive foam formation may lead to some block in the reactor. So the latter can lead to a loss of medium, or it may also create damage to the reactor and even injury to the operating personnel. So foam is typically controlled with the aid of anti-foaming agents based on silicone or any vegetable oils. So excessive anti-foam addition can, however, result in poor oxygen transfer rates. So anti-foam agent should be added in a minimum amount. So if it is added in excess amount, means it may cause to poor oxygen transfer rates. So the anti-foam requirement depends on the nature of the medium. So if the media is rich in proteins, and it will tend to foam more readily than the simple media. And then the products produced by the fermentation. So like the products like secreted proteins or nucleic acids released as a result of cell death, and hydrolysis have detergent-like properties. So these products and all, it produces more foam. And the aeration rate and the stirrer speed, increasing the aeration rate and stirrer speed will increase the foaming problems also. And foam control. So how to control this foam? So the use of mechanical foam control devices. So foam control devices such as mechanical and ultrasonic foam breakers help to reduce the anti-foam requirement. So instead of using the anti-foaming agents, we can use some mechanical or ultrasonic foam device, foam breakers to reduce the foam. So the headspace volume. So the larger headspace volume, then the greater the tendency for the foam to collapse under its own weight. So temperature control system. So the temperature control system is mainly the cooling jacket. So an alternative to using the jackets or cooling coils. So coils have a much higher heat transfer efficiency than using a jacket. So however, coils take up valuable reactor volume and it is difficult to clean and sterilize. So that is the disadvantage of using a coil. pH control. So neutralizing agents. So pH will be acting as a neutralizing agents. So the neutralizing agents used to control pH should be non-corrosive. So they must be non-toxic to the cells when they are diluted in the medium. And potassium hydroxide is preferred to sodium hydroxide because potassium ions tend to be less toxic to cells than the sodium ions. But only disadvantages of using this potassium hydroxide is it is more expensive than the sodium hydroxide. So sodium carbonate is also most commonly used in the small scale bioreactor systems. So for laboratory fermenters, a peristaltic pump is used to add the pH adjusting agents. And the silicone tubing is also often used. However, the silicone tubing will decay in the presence of high alkali concentrations. So thick walled silicone tubing should be used, and alternatively, Tygon or neoprene tubing can also be used. Cleaning and sterilization. So small scale reactors are taken apart and then cleaned before being reassembled, filled, and then sterilized in an autoclave. So however, so it is possible with small sized reactors. But it is difficult for large scale reactors. So however, reactors with volumes greater than 5 liters cannot be placed in an autoclave and sterilized. So these reactors must be cleaned and sterilized in place. So this process is referred to clean in place. So CIP, that is the clean in place, involves the complete cleaning of not only the fermenter, but also all lines linked to the internal components of the reactor. So steam cleaning and sterilizing chemicals, spray balls, and high pressure pumps are used in this process. So the process is usually automated to especially minimize the possibility of human error. So advantages and disadvantages of stirred tank reactor. So some of the advantages are they provide better aeration and mixing properties, and they provide high temperature, and they don't allow entry of carbon dioxide, and they are easy to operate. But the disadvantage is cell damage. So cell damage might occur during the stirred tank reactor since the stirrer would be mixing the contents, and some metabolites tend to decompose upon physical stirring. So these are some of the advantages of a stirred tank reactor. So the next one is airlift reactor. So now we are going to see some of the types of reactor. So the first one is the airlift reactor. So this airlift reactor, they are a typical motionless bioreactor where the internal circulation and mixing are achieved by bubbling air. So this reactor, it uses air to mix the contents present inside the bioreactor. So it employs forced or pressurized air to circulate the cells and the nutrient medium. So since it is using air instead of agitator, most commonly shear sensitive cells can be used in this type of airlift reactor. So here gas stream facilitate exchange of material between the gas phase and the medium. So oxygen is usually transferred to the liquid products and they are removed through exchange. So this is the structure of an airlift bioreactor. So this is the reactor. Here in this reactor, a draft tube would be present. So this draft tube would be dividing the reactor into two halves. So there will be a draft tube in the middle of the reactor, and there will be two regions called as the riser and downcomer. So riser and downcomer. So riser means the air. So as we already discussed, here it would be using a pressurized air to mix the contents inside the cell. So the air would be sparged from the bottom of the reactor. So when the air is taken up, then that is called as the riser. And again, this air will be coming down to mix the contents inside the cell. Then that is called as the downcomer. So the entire reactor is divided into two arcs by a draft tube. So the draft tube will be present. So this draft tube will be dividing the reactor into two arcs. So there will be two regions, as I told, a riser and a downcomer. So here the riser is the inner gassed region. The riser will be the inner gassed region, and the downcomer would be the outer ungassed region. So riser, it will be spreading the pressurized air. So it is called as the inner gassed region, and the downcomer would be the outer ungassed region. So riser, so the riser, how it is employing the air means it has a gas injection. It has a gas injection connected so that the air will be moving upwards. Whereas the downcomer region has degassed media and some cells. So the mean density gradient between the riser and the downcomer regions will cause this continuous circulation. Upward airflow. So as I told, from the bottom, it will be employing pressurized air for mixing the contents. So riser would be connected to the gas injection, whereas the downcomer, it contains the degassed media and the cells. So at the base, so here the base, so the base of the reactor, the base of the reactor, the base of the reactor, it contains, it is connected to a perforated nozzle bank or plate or sparger to pump the pressurized air. From the base only, the air would be spread. So the head space. So the head space as a gas release region, flocculation, foam accumulation, etc. So a gas separator. So a gas separator, it facilitates gas or liquid recirculation, minimizes the gas residence time, and reduces the gas friction in the downcomer. Working principle. So this is the working principle of the airlift reactor. So as I told, the pressure device would be, the gas injection would be there, which would be employing the pressure to move the riser. So the riser would be moving the air upwards, and the downcomer would be containing the degassed media and the cells. So this is the draft tube, and here this is the riser, and this is the downcomer. Whereas there are some types of reactor where inside the draft tube the downcomer will be there, and the sides of the draft tube the riser will be present. or sometimes both the riser and the downcomer would be present at the sides. Without entering into the draft tube, they might be present at both the sides. So this is the working principle of the airlift reactor. So there are two types of airlift reactor, internal loop reactor and the external loop reactor. So what is internal loop reactor? So the internal loop reactor is nothing but here the draft tube would be present inside the reactor. So as I told, the draft tube would be present inside the reactor, which will be dividing the reactor into two arcs. So in this internal loop reactor, the draft tube would be present inside the reactor. Whereas in the external loop reactor, what happens means the draft tube would be present outside. It will be forming a loop. It will be forming a loop from the reactor, and a draft tube would be present outside. So this is called as the external air loop reactor. So internal loop ALR, internal loop airlift reactor. It has baffles placed strategically in a single vessel, which creates the channels required for the circulation. So shortest path that a bubble cover from the rise to the downcomer is a straight line. So external loop ALR. So circulation takes place through separate and distinct conduits. So there is usually a minimum horizontal distance to be covered, which increases the chances of disengagement of the bubbles. So some of the advantages and disadvantages of this ALR are advantages: homogeneous mixing or distribution of gas or oxygen is achieved. So simple design with no moving parts or agitator. So it is less maintenance and there is less risk of defects. So easier sterilization. Since no agitator shaft parts are present, it is easier for sterilization. And low energy requirement, homogeneous distribution of nutrients and shear force. So the disadvantages are greater air through output and higher pressures are needed. Since here air is the only media for mixing the contents inside the reactor, so high pressures needed, and inefficient break the foam when foaming occurs, and no bubbles breaker are present inside this ALR. So these are the disadvantages of this ALR. The uses. So it is mainly used for mammalian cell cultures, and it is used for wastewater treatment and biological process involving biocatalysts as solids, and to produce biopharma proteins, etc. from fragile cells. For these and all, this ALR reactors will be used. Next one, fluidization. So fluidization, the operation by which fine solids are transformed into fluid-like state through contact with the gas or liquid. So fluidization refers to those gas solids and liquid solid systems in which the solid phase is subjected to behave more or less like a fluid by the upwelling current of gas or liquid stream moving through the bed of solid particles. Fluidized bed reactor. So it consists of a vertical cylindrical vessel containing fine solid catalyst particles. The fluid stream, it is usually a gas, is introduced through the bottom at a rate such that the catalyst particle are suspended in the fluid stream without being carried out. So when a gas flow is introduced through the bottom of a bed of solid particles, it will move upwards through the bed via the empty spaces between the particles. So here at low gas velocities, aerodynamic drag. So aerodynamic drag means the force on an object that resists its motion through a fluid is called drag. So when the fluid is a gas like air, then it is called as aerodynamic drag. So on each particle, it is also low, and thus the bed remains in a fixed state. So increasing the velocity, the aerodynamic drag forces will begin to counteract the gravitational forces. So causing the bed to expand in volume as the particles move away from each other. So this is a fluidized bed reactor. So your catalyst feed would be given. So the bubbles would be there. So non-reacted gas and the product would be produced. So further increasing the velocity, it will reach a critical value at which the upward drag forces will exactly be equal to the downward gravitational forces. So causing the particles to become suspended within the fluid. So as this critical value, the bed is said to be fluidized and will exhibit fluidic behavior. So with this reactor, it is possible to regenerate the catalyst continuously without shutting down the reactor. So this process will be continuously occurring, and this reactor is particularly suitable when the heat effects are very large or when frequently catalyst regeneration is required. The fluid velocity is sufficient to suspend the particles, but it should not large enough to carry them out of the vessel. So the solid particles swirl around the bed rapidly, creating excellent mixing among them. So the material fluidized is almost always a solid, and the fluidizing medium is either a liquid or gas. So the advantages. So the advantages of this fluidized bed reactor are uniform particle mixing is achieved, and uniform temperature gradients would be achieved, and ability to operate reactor in a continuous state is a major advantage of this fluidized bed reactor. So disadvantages: increased reactor vessel size, pumping requirements and pressure drop, particle entrainment, erosion of internal components and pressure loss scenarios, and lack of current understanding are the disadvantages of this fluidized bed reactor. Applications of this FBR. So they are applicable. They are mostly applicable in petroleum sector. They are used in the gasolines, aviation fuel, diesel feedstocks, jet fuel feedstocks, propane, butane, propellant for liquid petroleum gas and butanes, and butylene for liquid petroleum gas and butanes. Isobutane, cracked naphtha, gasoline from methanol fuel, and oils from polyethylene. And so petrochemical sector applications. So they needed for acetone recovery, aniline, aniline from nitrobenzene, ethanol from butadiene, polyethylene, hydrogen from steam, coal gasification, styrene from hydrocarbons. So they're also needed for cracking of methyl cyclohexane, malic anhydride, malic anhydride from benzene and butylenes, vinyl chloride, vulcanization of rubbers, fertilizers from coal, oil decontamination of sand, industrial and municipal waste treatment, and radioactive waste solidification. So they have many applications in the petroleum sectors. Trickled bed reactor. So here the reactor, it uses the downward movement of a liquid and the downward co-current or upward counter-current movement of gas over a packed bed of catalyst particles. So it is considered to be the simplest reactor type for performing catalytic reactions where a gas and liquid, normally both reagents, are present in the reactor, and accordingly it is extensively used in processing plants. So this is the trickled bed reactor. When the gas flow rate is increased to a threshold, the liquid will be completely broken apart and flow in the form of spray. So that spray is called as spray regime. So increasing both the gas and liquid flow rate will result in the so-called pulsing regime. So the key character of this regime is that the gas velocity is so high that the drag of gas on the liquid will cause turbulence in the liquid. So in this regime, two flow zones, gas dominant and liquid dominant, resulting in the gas and liquid flowing downward in sections. So when liquid flow rate is high and the gas flow rate is low, the reactor is in the so-called bubbling regime. So with liquid being the continuous phase and gas is dispersed as bubbles in the liquid layer. So here the applications are, they are used for wastewater treatment, oxidation reaction, petroleum processing, hydrogenation reaction, esterification, and coal liquefaction. Then photobioreactor. So a photobioreactor is a reactor that utilizes a light source to cultivate phototropic microorganisms. So these organisms, they use photosynthesis to generate biomass from light and carbon dioxide. So the members of this group are plant, mosses, microalgae, cyanobacteria, etc. So within artificial environment of photobioreactor, specific conditions are carefully monitored, controlled for respective species. So this is a photobioreactor. So batch type, it is a standard glass vessel which is externally supplied with light. So this type is quite common in laboratory scale, and it has never been established in bigger scale due to its limited vessel size. So the existing head nozzles are used for sensor installation, and they are also used for gas exchange. So there are many types of bioreactors, open system bioreactor and closed system bioreactor. Under open system bioreactor, we have open pond, And under closed system bioreactor, we have a tubular photobioreactor, plate photobioreactor, Christmas tree photobioreactor, and foil photobioreactor. So open pond photobioreactor. So it occurs, it should be occurring in the open trench or pond. So it is here for large production. It is the cost efficient way and it is very simple. And the different species require different conditions. For example, spirulina species, it needs higher concentration of sodium bicarbonate. So, and salina and Dunalilla salina grow in extremely salty water. So the open pond is otherwise called as raceway pond also. So this is the picture of a open pond photobioreactor. So in this video lecture, we have seen what is bioreactor and we have seen different types of bioreactor. We have seen batch type bioreactor, continuous stirred tank reactor, and there are many parts present inside the bioreactor and its uses and its functions. And we have seen the advantages and disadvantages of all the reactors. And we have discussed about the airlift reactor, fluidized bed reactor, and the photobioreactor. Thank you.